In this video, we'll retrace the steps of hackers whose actions didn't just disrupt networks, they shook the world. From stolen millions from the bank to intrusions into military systems looking for UFO evidence, each story climbs the ladder of chaos, ending with a case so shocking that a judge was convinced one man could start a nuclear war. In 1994, one of the first large-scale digital bank robberies was carried out by Vladimir Levin, a Russian software engineer from St. Petersburg. His target was Citibank, and his weapon wasn't a gun, but access to the bank's cash manager system, a dial-up wire transfer service connected to an X25-style network. It was cutting edge at the time, but the security was fragile. By using valid account credentials obtained through weak authentication layers, Levin managed to push through unauthorized transfers as if he were sitting inside the bank itself. The scale of the theft was staggering. Over several weeks, Levin and his accomplices attempted to move about $10.7 million, with Levin later pleading guilty to stealing $3.7 million that actually went through. He scattered the transfers across accounts in multiple countries: Finland, Israel, the Netherlands, Germany, and the United States, where accomplices stood ready to withdraw the cash. Some reports later complicated the story, suggesting Levin might not have cracked the system himself, but instead bought the credentials from other hackers in St. Petersburg for as little as $100. Whether mastermind or opportunist, the outcome was the same: millions siphoned out with no one pointing a gun. Citibank eventually detected unusual patterns in the transfers and tipped off authorities. What followed stretched across borders. Accomplices were caught trying to pull money at overseas banks, arrests piled up, and every trail circled back to Levin. He was picked up in London by Scotland Yard on a layover from Moscow, then extradited to the United States. Citibank recovered most of the stolen money, but roughly $400,000 disappeared permanently. Levin received a 3-year sentence, shockingly light compared to the alarm he triggered across the banking world. His case made clear that money was no longer safe behind vault doors. But that's just the first of 5 people and groups who forced the world to rethink what dangerous really means in the digital age. The next target wasn't cash, it was government computers. Gary McKinnon was not after money or fame. He was a Scottish systems administrator, better known online by his alias Solo, who in 2001 began probing US military and NASA networks. His motive was unusual. He said he was searching for evidence of UFOs, suppressed energy technologies, and proof the government was hiding them from the public. Over the course of 13 months, he accessed 97 computers across the Pentagon, Army, Navy, and NASA, using only a modem and determination. According to US investigators, his actions caused more than curiosity. They say McKinnon interrupted the military district of Washington network for about 24 hours and deleted weapons and logistics-related files at the Earl Naval Weapons Station, temporarily disrupting the Navy's ability to manage munitions movements. The Pentagon described these intrusions as severely disruptive, while McKinnon insisted he was a researcher chasing hidden truths. Investigators also alleged that he taunted officials by leaving messages such as, "Your security is crap," adding an air of defiance to his search. When charges followed, the United States described McKinnon's effort as the biggest military computer hack of all time, and sought to extradite him. The legal battle lasted nearly a decade, drawing intense media and public attention in Britain. Some dismissed him as a reckless intruder lost in conspiracy theories. Others framed him as a crusader against government secrecy. In 2012, the turning point came when the UK Home Secretary blocked his extradition, citing his health and the risk of suicide tied to his diagnoses of Asperger's syndrome and depression. McKinnon's story left governments debating whether cyber intrusions could ever be divorced from intent. His case showed how even one individual could trigger massive legal and diplomatic fallout. But the next step in this story shifts from lone actors to organized teams, professionals trained, funded, and armed to hack with national defense as their mission. Stick around, because the deeper we go, the crazier it gets. Inside the U.S. National Security Agency exists one of the most secretive cyber units in the world. Tailored Access Operations, or TAO. Often described as S-32, this unit functions like digital special forces. with more than 1,000 personnel including hackers, engineers, and intelligence specialists. Their headquarters, the Remote Operations Center at Fort Meade, quietly directs missions that make entire governments nervous. TAO's task is to infiltrate foreign computer systems, from individual devices to whole communication networks, all while leaving no sign of intrusion. Their operators don't steal cash, they collect intelligence. By targeting vulnerable routers, switches, and even international backbone links, they can compromise entire networks at once, giving them access to vast amounts of data instead of just a single machine. Among their best-known tools are Quantum and Fox Acid. Quantum is what security researchers call a man-on-the-side attack. When a target visits a website, TAO intercepts the request and races the legitimate server to respond. If they win, the user is silently redirected to a Fox Acid server. Fox Acid then tests the browser for weaknesses and, if one is found, installs persistent spyware or implants. The victim sees only a normal web page. For TAO, the connection has turned into a listening device. This capability allowed TAO to monitor phone switches, foreign government systems, and even international energy or transport networks. Hundreds of operators coordinated these efforts from secure facilities, working in shifts, handing off live operations like soldiers relaying information in combat. Efficiency, scale, and invisibility defined their approach. But it also raised a difficult question. TAO's work could provide vital intelligence, yet it also blurred the line between defense and state-level offensive hacking. That gray area foreshadowed what other nations would soon embrace as a model. And one of the clearest examples appeared not in Washington, but in a plain office tower across the Pacific. And remember to wait until the final case, where prosecutors claimed one man could trigger nuclear war. In Shanghai, a group of military-linked hackers quietly became one of the most feared forces in cyberspace. Known as PLA Unit 61398, or APT-1, the group specialized not in sabotage but in stealing intellectual property. Their mission was industrial espionage, and their methods were as methodical as they were patient. Mandiant's 2013 report traced their activity back at least to 2006 and tied it directly to a 12-story office building in Shanghai that housed the unit. The findings revealed how operators worked during Beijing business hours, reinforcing the conclusion that these were not hobbyists but military employees carrying out assignments. Their primary focus was clear: extracting sensitive data from aerospace firms, energy companies, technology developers, and even law practices tied to trade disputes. Once they gained access, often through spear phishing or social engineering, they installed remote access tools that let them operate inside networks for months or even years. During that time, they quietly exported terabytes of proprietary designs, testing results, and internal communications. Everything from jet engine blueprints to nuclear energy research was siphoned away, with the aim of delivering long-term economic and strategic benefits to China. The exposure of APT-1 changed how governments and corporations thought about cybersecurity. For the first time, state-sponsored hacking was not just suspected, it was publicly documented in detail with timelines, malware samples, and infrastructure maps. And in 2014, the U.S. Justice Department indicted 5 specific officers from Unit 61398 on charges of theft and hacking. It was a rare and historic moment. Uniformed foreign military hackers named and charged in a civilian courtroom. This was the point where hacking shed any doubt of being just mischief or theft. It became openly recognized as a tool of state policy and economic competition. And it set the stage for a very different kind of figure, an individual whose reputation alone made prosecutors insist he was capable of triggering catastrophe. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. After the most insane hacker cases, it all comes down to this final one. Kevin Mitnick became the hacker that federal prosecutors painted as more than just a threat to corporations. Someone so dangerous that, in their words, he could trigger catastrophe. In court, they argued he might even start a nuclear war by whistling codes into a payphone. Seriously, implying that he could somehow dial into the NORAD modem via a payphone from prison and communicate with the modem by whistling to launch nuclear missiles. That might seem ridiculous now, but in the 1980s there was a lot of fear over how technology worked. Computers and the fledgling internet were not that well understood by the general public. So the judge threw Kevin into solitary confinement where he spent 8 months. The exaggeration revealed how fear of his abilities had grown beyond the facts. Mitnick's path into hacking showed why he became such a target. At 12, he tricked a Los Angeles bus driver into selling him a punch for fare transfers. By dumpster diving for discarded slips and punching his own, he managed to ride for free, a small but telling example of his gift for social engineering. 4 years later, at 16, he phoned the University of Southern California's computer lab, pretending to be a developer. With nothing more than confidence and a fake role, he talked his way into getting the password for DEC's system and walked away with its source code. Interviews later revealed he prized the thrill of access more than profit. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Mitnick expanded these methods. He hacked into the computer systems of companies such as Nokia, Motorola, and Sun Microsystems, exploiting software vulnerabilities and manipulating people through social engineering. He cloned cell phones to hide his whereabouts, tapped into Pacific Bell's networks, and explored the systems of software firms and telecoms. He was elusive, staying ahead of investigators for more than 2 years as a fugitive. His arrest finally came in 1995 in North Carolina. By then, the FBI had found not weapons but cloned phones, fake IDs, and stolen code fragments. In 1999, he was sentenced to 46 months plus additional time for violating a prior supervised release, serving about 5 years total, including his pre-trial detention. Afterward, he reinvented himself as a consultant, founding Mitnick Security, working with No.B.4, and writing books on social engineering. His story underscored that in hacking, the greatest weapon isn't always code, it's persuasion. From Vladimir Levin's stolen millions to Kevin Mitnick's courtroom mythology, the story of hacking shows how it expanded from isolated exploits into matters of national security. Even the infamous nuclear whistle claim was a prosecutor's exaggeration, yet it led to extraordinary detention measures and revealed how fear of digital power was reshaping legal and political responses. What began as lone individuals testing systems grew into organized campaigns backed by state militaries and intelligence agencies. The stakes escalated from curiosity to corporate theft to cyber warfare. In today's world, power travels not only through armies and weapons but also through code. Which of these stories shocked you the most? The $10 million bank heist, the NASA intrusions, or the rise of a state-run cyber army? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe if you want more deep dives into the unseen battles shaping our world.